now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about the double Black Widow of the 1980s, known as Sharon Nelson Harrelson. Now, your Sharon Nelson Harrelson murdered 2 of her 3 husbands in order to get the insurance money. Now, your Sharon Nelson Harrelson, from what I read, was basically one of these females who was participating in hypergamy, and she was looking to monkey branch from one man to the next, looking for the big payday at the expense of their lives. Now, your Sharon Nelson Harrelson started out life being born Sharon Lynn Douglas and was born into a strict Seventh-day Adventist family in 1945. Now, your Sharon Lynn Douglas at the time had a problem dealing with the authority of the strict Seventh-day Adventist religion. However, she married Mike Fuller, a Seventh-day Adventist minister in Durham, North Carolina. Now, I believe your Sharon Lynn Douglas really wasn't marrying this man out of love, but she was marrying him out of hypergamy because she wanted to monkey branch to a prominent man who had social status in the Seventh-day Adventist religion, and she also wanted to get out from under the strict authority of her father. And that foundation for her daddy issues and issues with male authority could be the core reason why she had such a hard time as related to being a submissive partner in a marriage, and the fact that her husband basically wasn't really making that much money as a minister. That also led to this woman looking to monkey branch to the next partner. Now, their lives changed as your Mike was relieved of his minister duties at his church and assigned to a Rocky Ford, Colorado church. And again, this is where your Sharon's hypergamy started to kick in, because since she saw that this man had lost his high social status in the Seventh-day Adventist religion and no longer could provide her with access to resources, this is where the predators started looking for men to go out here and prey on and monkey branch to the next man. Now, your Sharon, as she was married to your Mike Fuller, went out here and was having affairs with different men, and that's when she decided to go out here and start putting on the too short shorts and the low-cut tops as they were living in Rocky Ford, something a minister's wife wouldn't wear, but this is something a woman would wear when she's trying to entice another man so that she could go out here and find a partner to go out here and monkey branch to. And that's why she was using her sex appeal to try to get their attention, because she was looking for another partner who could go out here and provide her with a higher class lifestyle than the husband she had, Mike Fuller, who was working a low-level job as a minister. And she soon got the attention of your Dr. Perry Nelson, who, even though he was married with 2 children, was an optometrist who was making lots of money. And that was the reason why she went out here and was looking to go out here and get involved with him, looking to monkey branch from one man to the other, and quickly divorced her husband, the minister, Mike Fuller, and he got custody of his kids, which is something that she would have wanted, because a hypergamous woman, when she wants to go out here and monkey branch to the next man with higher economic resources and higher social status, she will go out here and monkey branch to that man and then go out here and get involved with that man. And that's what your Sharon did when she got involved with your Dr. Nelson and wound up marrying him in 1977, and then quickly gave birth to a baby boy, built a luxurious home on a cliff overlooking the town, which she named the Roundhouse. Now, she went to this man again because he had the resources, he had the high social status, and he had the lifestyle that made her comfortable. And with your Dr. Nelson being a bit of a simp, going out here giving your Sharon everything she wanted, what he did was not even pay for the unemployment insurance for his own receptionist. So he was basically putting this woman first in front of his life and even passing on many of his patients. So even as he was out here looking to go out here and try to please this woman who was basically a gold digger looking to get a big payday at his expense and wasn't satisfied with the lifestyle that he was providing for her. Now, as she was in this relationship with your Dr. Perry Nelson, your Gary Starr Adams, a local roofer and handyman, came to the door of the roundhouse to borrow a wheelbarrow, and that's when your Sharon found her next man that she was looking to go out here and monkey branch to. And now your Gary Starr Adams, he was a what I call a pookie, and this pookie was basically there looking to just go out here and do these odd jobs here and there. And as your Sharon was out here married to Dr. Nelson, she was looking to get in her next affair to find her next tool to use in order for her to monkey branch to the next man. Now, your Gary was out here, again, he's a pookie, he's out here, he's married, but he's having an affair with Sharon because he's getting access to resources from your simp, Dr. Nelson. And while your Sharon wanted to go out here and be with this man, he didn't want to be with her because he already had an established life, and like a pookie, he was just using her as a side piece in order to go out here and get easy access to the skid mark jockey draws and the atomic waste reactor between your Sharon's legs. So after he got access to this situation, your Perry's his whole business of being a doctor started to deteriorate as they were having 2 kids, and your Dr. Nelson, his whole financial situation basically deteriorated because he was a simp who was out here looking to please a very predatory female. And once your Sharon saw that the resources were going to dry up, that's when she decided to go out here and take the life of the man she was having an affair with, because he had no longer proved a useful tool to providing her with the lifestyle that she wanted. So what she was looking to do was get her resources by taking his life. So this Black Widow, what she wanted to do was get paid at his expense, and she decided to go out here and make it look like she was trying to fix her love life and her financial situation by going out here and manipulating your Gary Adams, who's the pookie, and telling him that, oh, this man is abusive. And again, this is a classic situation that predatory women set up. They will go out here and get involved with a simp, and then once they get all the resources they want out of that simp, what they do is start making plans to take the life of that simp, because they want to do 2 things. One, they want to go out here and monkey branch to the next man, and 2, they want to go out here and make sure that there are no other men out here to tell the story as related to the secrets, as related to the skeleton bones that they have in their graveyard. And that's what your Sharon was doing here as related to your Dr. Perry Nelson. She wanted to go out here and make sure that she could go out here and monkey branch to the next man, and then go out here and be able to avoid having people know that she was nothing more than a 304. And what she did was go out here and talk this pookie, your Gary Adams, into doing her dirty work. And then after he did this dirty work, where he smashed the doctor's head with a rock, he then shoved the car into a stream. The car was found, but it would be 1.5 years before Dr. Perry Nelson's body would be discovered. But your Gary then monkey branch, as your Sharon monkey branched over to him, moved into their roundhouse and was living in their home. And then Sharon then sold some of his belongings, and Dr. Perry Nelson's belongings, and filed for the $200,000 life insurance. Now, when your pookie Gary would not leave his wife, that's when Sharon knew she was desperate, and that's when she started to participate in the behavior that predatory women usually participate in, and that is go looking for a partner in the personals. Now, your Sharon was looking in the personals because most of the men in that community already knew that she was a promiscuous woman, and since they knew she was a promiscuous woman, they went out here and they didn't want to deal with her, so she decided to go find some more simps in the personal ads, which is just like what we call online dating today. Back in the 80s, it was called the personal ads, and anybody who's in the personal ads usually is either desperate or looking for their next tool to use. And your Sharon was looking for her next tool to use, and that tool was a firefighter named Glenn Harrelson. Now, your Glenn Harrelson, like many of the other men in Sharon's life, really they were simps, like your Dr. Nelson was. He was a simp, and this simp was he was lonely, divorced, and fell hard for Sharon because she possibly had the look he was looking for, and got caught up in his feelings over this woman because your Sharon wound up charming him, and then what happened with your Glenn is that he got so caught up in his feelings with this woman that he decided to go out here and marry her. Now, your Glenn worked as a dispatcher in Denver, but Sharon didn't want to leave the roundhouse she got from her simp, so Glenn, being a simp, commuted from Thornton, Colorado over to Denver on the weekends, and that left time for Sharon to be with her Pookie and then have a relationship with your Glenn Harrelson. And sadly, by November of 1988, the marriage had deteriorated, and the commute and the expense of the two homes was messing with the money. And since your Sharon was a gold digger looking to be able to get cash, she went out here looking to go out here and find a way to get rid of Glenn, because again, she didn't want the skeleton bones to be revealed as related to her promiscuous lifestyle and as related to her having almost three failed marriages, and this would basically show her as a failure. And what she wanted to do was go out here and go recruit your Gary Adams to go out here and do her dirty work for her. And once again, your Gary Adams, being the Pookie and the killer simp, decided to go to your Harrelson's home. And as he went to Harrelson's home, he went in there and shot him in the face, and then they set the house on fire to hide the body and the evidence. However, when police started doing their investigation into the fire, they started to realize that a fireman would know how to get out of a burning building. And when they found bullet casings next to your Glenn Harrelson's charred body, they realized that there was foul play. Now, the police doing the investigation then quickly turned to your Sharon Nelson Harrelson, and they started to look at her more suspect, and eventually your Sharon was basically jammed up. Even though she had two young children playing in the room, she knew she was in trouble, so she drove the police officers to the Pizza Hut where her kids played, and then she confessed to saying that Gary Adams was the one behind the murders. But I believe your Sharon Nelson Harrelson was the one who basically laid out the plans for this murder, because your Sharon Nelson Harrelson's problems were that she was a hypergamous woman who had a serious problem with male authority due to the way she was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist church, where there was strict authority over her. And because the church had strict authority over her, she was rebelling against the church. She was rebelling against her father. She was rebelling against her husband. And as she was out here rebelling, she felt the only way for her to have power, as related to having control over her life, was to take the lives of these men after she used them for resources. This is why your Sharon Nelson Harrelson was a black widow, but this black widow had, after putting the bite on two men and taking their lives, had been caught by the police, and after being caught by the police and dealing with insurmountable evidence, your Sharon Nelson Harrelson was pleaded guilty to the murders of both of her husbands and is now currently doing life in prison along with Gary Adams, who is now sitting in a penitentiary now having to deal with having a relationship with Bubba and Tiny, and as they're trading him for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light, Kit Kat candy bars, 6-pack Oreo cookies, Fritos chips, and other assorted items in the commissary, as Bubba and Tiny are just enjoying his backside, turning him from a tight end into a wide receiver. Your Sharon is sitting inside of that women's penitentiary, and she's having to go out here and trade commissary, like again, the Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light tea, Kit Kat candy bars, Snickers candy bars, Mr. Good bars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, and Fritos chips. She's playing for spades with Becky and your Big Betty and Bertha, and realizing that she basically lost everything. But the greatest losers as related to these relationships that your Sharon Nelson Harrelson had were her 2 children who were born to Dr. Nelson, and those 2 children basically wound up losing their fathers and their mothers, and the 2 children that were from the pastor basically lost their mother. And again, these families wound up in crisis due to a dysfunctional woman in crisis who just did not want to perform her role as a helpmeet, which was established by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And since she did not want to submit to the authority of a man under the church, she decided to go out here and look to try to gain power by manipulating men. Unfortunately, as she tried to manipulate men as tools, she wound up being the source of her own undoing, because she was so greedy for money and resources that she wound up trying to take this other man's life. And as she took this other man's life, the Glenn Harrelson's life, she wound up losing her life in prison. And she deserves to be in prison, because people are not tools. But many of your women in crisis, they become so jaded as related to men due to their daddy issues and their inability to perform their roles in God's order, that they wind up being of no earthly good to any man. And as they become no earthly good to any man, they become women in crisis, and those women in crisis go out here and participate in murder, like I talk about in the chapter Murder and the Woman Crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about what motivates women like Sharon Nelson Harrelson to go out here and commit murder, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers in paperback and digital format, such as Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and even places like Target and Walmart. If you want to see me do more historical women in crisis videos, you can send a donation to the Cash App or the Patreon or the PayPal, and if I know something about that woman, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.